everyone, and welcome back to Miranda Pitrone Art. I know it has been a very long time since I was on a video here with you, but I'm back doing this lovely fall leaf here today. So I'm just going to scroll through here just to give you a reminder of a few things. I do have my own website, which I'm trying to just use more instead of all the social media and Etsy and whatnot. So this has my shop. It has painting tutorial link. You can go to leave a review. You can check out the color palette inspiration. You can go up here also to the More tab and check out the Instagram page, as well as contact me and get a little taste of photography that I have taken over the years. So Instagram also is mostly like a portfolio, basically. It shows off a lot of the art that I've done over the years, so you can check that out for inspiration as well and just kind of see what I'm up to, as well as here on the website. Alright, just real quick before we get into this video, which I am super excited to do with y'all, I want to thank you all for your support of my art and me and all the kind messages and notes and letters and calls and just, I don't even know what to say. I'm kind of speechless. You guys are amazing and I really appreciate you, and it's such a great feeling to feel as blessed as I am by all of you. So thank you so much. All right, so we're gonna go into color palettes here. And I was kind of going for a non-traditional fall color palette where I definitely wanted to have a little bit of that blue, that like Williamsburg slate blue. So that was kind of what I was gravitating towards here. So if you're looking for other color palette ideas, this is the Pinterest page, which you can get to from my website. Or if you just have Pinterest, you can follow me on there. Color palettes, yay. Very original, you know. So this is the one I pretty much went with, but then I decided to add a little more bright pink and a little yellow that's brighter and some burnt orange, just to kind of make it a little bit bolder. So I started off with, it's about a 12-inch cutout of a fall leaf, and I just painted it black with the black 2.0 that I have from Stuart Semple. And this whole thing is going to be multiple tools, multiple brand paints. I just kind of went nuts with everything I had. So I'll try to list everything in the comments as far as which colors for sure I used and where the products are that I was using also in the video. So this is just a compass because I want to just make a solid color here at the base. I don't know, I did this on a couple of leaves in the past and I just really like it. I don't know why, just to block out that big chunk of color, and I'm going to start it off actually with that blue. So first I'm going to kind of outline it here with some white dots, and I am using the Angle Spot Detailer brush. And I'm just going to do a row here to kind of delineate that section and separate it from the rest of the painting. So when you're using the brushes, if you all are wanting to try it, it is just about your paint consistency for sure, but also pressure. So I want a bigger dot, I push down harder, kind of paint it in a circle, wiggle it in different ways. If you want it smaller dots, you just let up on the pressure so you're more on the tip of the paintbrush, and that'll help you when you're walking out the dots and going to the progressive sizes that you can do. And I have a bunch of these, and really some are worn out, some are, the wands are cracked. You'll see. I just grab whatever I have here in my cup. So this is the Decoart Snow White, the titanium white that they have. I tend to use a lot of the Decoart paints just because they are a really great consistency right out of the bottle, and I don't have to put any additives in them, and they dry really nicely. Their colors are nice and bold. Okay, so now I'm going to just kind of grab some of this light pale yellow. And you can use your dotting tools to create these dots as well. The size that I'm at is probably, though, if you have the rainbow set of dotting tools with the ball end of the stylus, it is probably about the 3mm size. So that'll be the largest ball stylus to get this size dot. And I'm just going in between those little white dots that we put down a second ago here. And after this row, I'll just put another small row of the yellow in between those. So you can use the small end of the dotting tool. You can go ahead and dot in between those, but it would be the small end for the smaller dots and then the larger end of the stylus for the larger dots. And I'm actually just stealing paint from the wet dots, so I don't have to keep going back to the palette. But you don't have to do that. You can go back and forth to the palette. A lot of people have said they feel that that methodical back and forth is really enjoyable for them. Okay, so this is golden yellow. It's the Decoart Americanas. And I want a little bit of a bigger dot here, so like I said earlier, you're just going to push down a little bit harder and you're really just painting circles to get that dot size larger. You can use other brushes, you can use other tools. It's just a little bit larger than the primary dots that we put down on the rows before this. Okay, last one here. So these ones I just did every other above the light yellow. So now I'm debating what to do in between. These are the styluses that I'm speaking about, so it's about the 3mm size, but it's the largest one in that pack. I'm going to switch now to the etcher tool, and I sell these all in my shop. So it has a sharp end and then it has this golden end. And this is great for micro dotting, but also it is really good for swipes. So I call these swipes. I don't know, I've always called them that. I was told it's also called a comma stroke in painting. And then a lot of people I see are calling them swooshes. So just so we all are on the same page. And I'm just going to use kind of like a light cream color here, and we're going to start at the top of each of the darker yellow dots and pull it. So you just gently put a tiny bit on the end and pull it. You pull it down to the bottom corner, basically, across, so that you get this diagonal effect. And it's just a tiny bit on here. The more paint you put, the larger, thicker the swipe you're going to get for a result out of these. So, alright, so I'm just going to leave that in there. I have a temporary studio set up in my basement right now, so my water pump keeps turning on for the well. Sorry about that, you guys. Bear with me in this till I get the other studio up and running in the outbuilding, which I am super excited about. We had to rip it all out though, so it is ending up a little bit longer of a process than I wanted, but we will get there soon. Alright, right, so I'm just going to come back in here and put some of the lighter colored dots next to that swipe that we just put in. So I just kind of do these off the top of my head. I get asked a lot, where is my inspiration coming from? Am I copying a pattern? And I generally just start at the beginning and just keep adding elements that I think fit into the space, and pick colors mostly from the palette that I started off with. Sometimes I go a little awry with colors and I get a little crazy using a ton, but never have too much of abundance of color, right? So this is a silicone tool, and I honestly don't have a ton of experience with them just because I use more of the tools and the brushes, but this one has a beveled edge, and it's kind of like the screwdriver that we were dipping last year, just a flathead screwdriver, except it's a little squishier on the end, so you can kind of guide it into shape pretty decently. And so I'm just using the white. We'll just do little petals here above each of the darker yellow dots. And periodically I get these in my shop too, so if you are looking for a set, I get some in here and there and just pop them in the shop. It's fun doing different shapes too, adding different elements as you go, just to kind of see where your mandala will lead you. But I see people are doing amazing things with mandalas now, like snowmen and pumpkin, all sorts of little shapes inside the mandala. So it's so awesome to see how creative everyone is being. Facebook is a good place to get in groups. If you are looking for somewhere, just hop in the groups and they'll give you a lot of information and you'll get a lot of inspiration. So this one is a little wider than I want it to be, so you can actually use these silicone tips for cleanup as well. While something's still wet, you can just kind of scrape the paint off here. And baby wipes I'll use often as well. They kind of take it off quick, especially on the stones. So I just take a baby wipe and try to get as much off as I can, and then I just put a little dab of the black paint that I used on the background back over it. So the baby wipes do work better on the stones. This is wood, so it has a different absorption factor. Okay, so now I'm going to use and go back over it here and use that silicone tool again and just fix that little petal. These are acrylic rods, so they're just plastic, flat end. They come in different sizes if you want to make bigger dots than the dotting tools allow for. And so I'm going to use that first green one here with some of the blue. And this green one is about 1/2 inch in diameter. And I'm using the slate blue multi-surface from Decoart. And sometimes I just kind of have to press down a couple times to just kind of rock it back and forth to make that perfect circle. So it's a little bit more effort, and we're just doing every other white petal here. We'll put a nice big blue dot above it. So I apologize, I'm off the screen here, but I only have so much space on my desk, but I promise it's just another blue dot, nothing exciting, just above the white petal. Let me zoom out a little here. It's hard with these larger pieces down here in the small studio. So I'm going to just kind of tuck one on the edge here, because you can see that the pattern would keep going, and if I kept going around on a mandala, this would be the next space that had a blue dot. So I'm just going to put a 1/2 one in there just to kind of keep the symmetry of the whole pattern going. So now I'm back with the angled brush here, and we're going to do a round of light baby blue around these blue dots. And I'm just taking my time so I can do the adequate pressure. So a little heavier at the top, and then as you come around, just let up gently. You're going to have less paint on your brush, but not enough. So you have to let up on the pressure as well to start the smaller size dots. You can also use the dotting tools or the etcher to do these smaller micro dots if you are not wanting to use a brush. You just use whatever you're comfortable with, and as with the dotting tools and the etcher, you're going to have to dip them more in the paint. So sometimes I just have something off to the side, like an extra piece of paper or something like that, to just kind of drop off some of the paint, if you will. So dip it and then dot the paper until you get to about the size you left off at. If you have a lot of dots going around a circle, sometimes there's not enough paint to dot all the way around. You can see my camera from my phone in there. That's sometimes how I do a different angle on these to put on Instagram and things like that. So I figured I can't fit it in the whole shot here, so you're gonna get to see the behind the scenes a little bit here. So how are you all doing? I know it's been a while and YouTube has bumped me out of the spot of showing my videos to people for dotting art, but that's okay because you all are awesome, and I know you'll be back saying hi to me because I miss you all so much. So if you could take the time to leave me a comment, say hi, say where you're from, maybe how long you've been watching my videos, just to give it a boost for me, get back on track here. Who knows, with the social media, you know, once they start banning and censoring and doing stuff like that, it's hard to know what the algorithms do. But before I left online, it was if people commented, they would bump you up a little more because you were getting more engagement with your videos. So say hi, tell me where you're from, what's your favorite color, what do you like to paint? Just anything in the comments, just to say hi. And if you have actual questions, please list those there too, because not only will I try to answer them, a lot of helpful other people pop on and give great ideas over the years. It's been such a blessing to have the added information on here. I know there was a time when I started the swipes, like I said, someone came on actually and told me that in actual painting where you're trained, they call it a comma stroke, which I thought was really cool because I'm mostly self-taught. I mean, I took various art classes and photography classes and acrylics and just random ones though, I mostly did pointillism with ink when I was younger. But I think it's really neat to have that opportunity to share information and just to have a community. This art community is so phenomenal. I've met so many wonderful people on here that I've never actually even got to meet in person. But we have conversations on the phone now and interactions and with their animals and their kids, or they send me a video of their animal to show my kids. It's just awesome. So now I am using this a little bit darker blue. It's called Night Sky, and it's one of the multi-surface ones from Americana as well. But like I said, everything I use in the video I'll put in the links for the description, so you'll have it all at your fingertips. I'm Just gonna put a little dab of that right in the middle here of our dot. The night sky. I feel like there used to be a crayon in the box called Cornflower Blue, and this is where I wanted to go with the colors in this for fall. I remember as a child just enjoying that. I don't know why it stuck out in my brain. Cornflower blue, like what is a cornflower? Or is corn even blue? Like it just didn't make sense as a kid, but I really liked the blue that it was. So I'm trying to maybe get in touch with my inner child here. Alright, so we went white, midnight sky, and then back to a little bit of the slate blue for the final ring around here. Ring around our large blue dot. How are you all holding up? I'm sure you're doing awesome. Some of you are a little faster than I am. You're probably already done with all these dots around all of them. That's another thing that's the beauty of this as well, is that if I'm not going fast enough, or if you're a seasoned painter or more experienced, you can always fast forward through the part. Obviously I have a lot of these to do. Sometimes I'll just sit quietly, but I just miss y'all. I just wanted to engage a little bit. Plus I talk to a 4-year-old mostly all day long, so it's nice to semi-speak to adults. We're just about hitting our peak weekend, probably this weekend, for the colors of the fall foliage. Maybe get another week out of it depending on the weather, but it's nice seeing all the colors. Last year it just went directly from green leaves to brown, and then they were falling off the trees, and we already had snow in October, so it's really nice this year to have some added color and a little bit of inspiration. So in some of my past videos, I put music, like a musical interlude, during these long parts. Let me know in the comments if you guys prefer that kind of thing. I'll try to alternate and do different things so it's not always the same every video. But I know a lot of you like to just hang out and paint with me, so I got it just going real time. And if you need to skip ahead, feel free. It was really nice to get back to painting. It has been a while. I've been running around the yard with chickens and getting kids to and from school, and we've been reinforcing our basement foundation and waterproofing and painting the kitchen. It just is not ever ending, is it? But it's fun. And then of course I watch an online auction from a local auction house around here, and they have some amazing pieces, and I've just gotten a few of those and redone those. A hutch I just finished, and I'm working on 2 tables right now, so I might be having a little bit too much on my plate, but it's nice to always be busy with things that I enjoy. So you can see a lot of people have asked, you know, did I freeze the bristles in place somehow with glue or something like that? It's just a paintbrush. It's just the angle spot detailer. I'm just wiggling it around a little bit each time to kind of get a circle out of it. And this is at a weird angle, so it looks different maybe on the screen, but you just kind of wiggle it around to the size you want, and then also the amount of paint you put on will assist with that. So I loaded a little bit more for like these pink dots. just tuck them in here over each of the opposite white petals that we left blank. And that'll give it a nice little pop of color in there too. This is a little pinker on the screen than it is in real life. It's the berry cobbler, so it's a little more subdued. The intensity on my screen looks a little more magenta, bright pink, but it's not. So I'm going to go with another silicone tool. This one's just a little bit larger than the silicone one that we used for the little white petals, so it's going to give us a longer pink petal. Do here at the top of each of these, we'll just do 3. So I'm going to go through and do the first one at the top of each of these, and then it gives them a second to kind of dry, so that when I come back through for the ones on either side, they don't bleed into one another as much, if at all. And again, this berry cobbler is a Decoart paint. So for those of you just starting out too, looking for tools, a lot of people have been asking about tools lately. I would just start by dipping stuff around your house. Q-tips, pencil tips, both ends of a mechanical pencil. You can use the eraser, and the lead makes great tiny little dots. You can use needles, the head of a needle, pins. There's just so many options out there. Screwdrivers we did last year, like I was saying. Flathead screwdriver works really well to make these petals. And you have different sizes available. Just raid your husband's toolbox or your own, and just make sure you wipe them off really well after. Although they'll still work to work with tools to do screws with. A screwdriver. I lost my train of thought. What is the thing you put them in the wall with? Telling you, these days, guys, sometimes I feel a little flakier brains than normal. I'm sure I'm not the only one. Brain fog. It's nice to actually sit down and have a calm painting session. But you can see too, just a different shape. It gives it kind of a delicate decorative look in here, just tucking them in. Just each element gives it a different look. And a couple more over here. One thing I'll say too, it's really important to have a comfort level. So I'm always turning the piece that I'm working on, reaching it around. I'm trying to get it so that the camera can see it, but most of the time it's really for my own comfort zone, trying to have it in a position that's comfortable for whatever tools I'm using. So I'm back to the pale yellow here. We're just going to put a dot of that under each of the triple petals, the pinks. And I try to carry the colors I use throughout the whole piece. So you'll see as we get into this more too that I try to use some of the same ones just in different ways throughout the piece to just have that cohesiveness for the whole leaf. All right, so now back to that 1/2 inch acrylic rod. And I am using this lovely coral blush, a little bit darker in the coral range, but pretty tasty for fall. Tasty. You don't want to eat the paint. That's a disclaimer. And I'm just going to put these over our pink petals, like little sunset flowers here. This coral blush goes really well with the berry cobbler too. I don't know what it is about those two, but all right. So now I'm going to go to one of the angled dotting tools that I make here, and this is the 3mm size. and I am grabbing some of the light coral shell. I think it's coral shell. Let me check the bottle here. Yep, coral shell. In the video it looks similar to the pale yellow, but it's not. It is a light shade of coral. And one of the things that I really value in a lot of pieces is how the negative space works. So where you leave it blank and decide not to add elements, I think that that says a lot about your piece as well. Just being able to have that calm space where you don't have to fill in every little section with dots or whatever element you're using. You don't have to fill it in all the way. Alright, so this is my etcher. And my etcher, we're going to do a little swipe here, but it's gonna be up and around and then pull out the tail. And again, this is with the slate blue, and these multi-surface ones are a little bit thicker, so you're gonna see I will have to grab the tail and probably drag them out a little more each time, just because they don't put as much paint on the tool. They're not as fluid. They do work amazingly well, don't get me wrong. And the multi-surface ones will cure on their own. So if you have it on glass or something like that, or a mug, you can bake them, but B, they will also self-cure, which means you don't need a varnish on them. So if it's a mug or something you want to drink out of, they have that component to them. So I'm just kind of starting above that coral shell. I drip off as much paint as I can, sometimes double back like this and add paint to it, and then grab it and go up and around. Almost like a backwards apostrophe, you know, for writing a contraction and you put an apostrophe. It's just almost like that, and then you just drag the tail out longer. So if I don't get it far enough, I will grab the metal end like that, and it's smaller, doesn't have any paint on it, and just grab some of the paint from where I was working and drag it out just a little bit farther. And again, really guys, you just enjoy the time of doing this. It doesn't, every single one does not have to be exact carbon copies of the one before it. This is art. It's painting, it's unique, it's going to be unique to you. We're not machines. Let's not be machines. Also, we just can't live up to that. You know, machines can do the perfection of geometry. There are some people who can get it pretty close. I know I've spoken before about it in the past, but I think there's something to be said for the other cultures that used to purposefully put a mistake in there just to say this is art, it's done by human hands, it's not, nothing's perfect except, you know, your creator, that type of thing. So see, and just adding that different element already gives your mandala a different look. Alrighty, so this next part, somehow I'm gonna edit in here that skipped part of the video. So I used the pale yellow, and I used a, let's see, this one, acrylic rod that was about 3/4 of an inch diameter, and I did these yellow dots at the top. Now obviously it's me painting the cornflower blue down here, that light blue, but the yellow dots above were done with, like I said, the 3/4 inch rod, and I only did them over the blue swipes. So it's just big yellow circles over the blue, and then I'm coming back in here with the blue to kind of block out this, and I'm going to leave this without dots because I just really like, there's something about the solid color to start things off in the center, where had this been an actual full mandala instead of a leaf cut out, then it would just be a big blue dot in the center. So I apologize for that. It's been a while, and for some reason the computer had some technical difficulties, and it might even might have been a little bit of user error at that point, but it is what it is, and here we are. Alright, so just like we did around the blue dots, I'm going to put them around our large yellow dots here. And I'm just using that light cream color first. And for this, I'm just going to quickly go through with the etcher to show you that you do have to keep dipping and dotting. So I'm dipping, and it doesn't make it all the way around. I'll grab some more. And this is where I was talking about if you have too much on the tool, you have to just drop it off on a piece of paper, tap it on a piece of paper, you know, dot down as far as you can on the other side maybe, then start with the little dots again. It's just, you'll learn your tool when you're working with it and how much you need to go, how far, how many dots it will actually do, depending on the paint as well. So the thickness of the paint and which tool you're using actually matter quite a bit. So I'm just going to show you, on the other one I used the paintbrush, this I'm using the etcher. I just grab from the other dots that are wet, so it's less paint, and then you can do the smaller ones that way too. And just bringing it all the way down and around. This is where too it really comes in if you just want to put on some relaxing music, or you know, the dip and dot, the back and forth, just enjoying your painting time. This would be where we do that when we get farther on in. Okay, so this is the same yellow that I used for the large dots, that pale yellow. And one of the things I'll say too is if you have the raw wood like this, if you seal it beforehand, it will actually stop the paint from soaking in so much, so that you might not have to dip it as many times. I didn't do that. I also have some products called Wood Reclaim, which will help fill in the cracks on the wood, but if you just put a quick coat of sealer and then put your base coat, or put your base coat, then a quick coat of sealer, either way, it'll just kind of help the wood not be as absorbent when you're actually painting on it. So I did not do that. That probably would aid you in doing that if you have wood that's just soaking the paint up. So you can see some of the dots aren't exactly round. It's because it gets into the cracks of the wood, or I pushed down really hard and it got a hole, not a hole, like an indentation in the wood. So there's something to be said for prepping it initially as well. Just like when you put gesso on your canvas to stop the grid lines. So we'll do kind of an ombre effect with these two. So I went from the the cream to the pale yellow, and then I'll probably do the light coral, and then just straight up dark orange. I think I can fit that many rings around each of these. So I get kind of a plan in my head ahead of time. It doesn't always work out, especially with these pieces that are an odd shape, trying to, you know, squeeze in the design on the ends and these little sections of leaf. You just kind of have to make a plan to make sure it's going to fit at each section. So I will put the light coral here, and then I'm pretty sure I can fit another ring around after this. Alright, I'm going to throw some music in here for you guys just because this is going to take a bit. Okay, so now I have this stencil, which I was sent from Craft.at, and I will put their link in the thing. And I'm only using one element from here because I'm just going to use one petal. I'm not going to trace the whole thing. I'm just going to etch it on here because I wanted to just kind of use one of each on either side to test it out as part of a design. And so I'm going to use the etcher, and I'm just going to etch it into my black paint there so that I can see it. And afterwards I don't have lines to erase. I just damp cloth it or wipe it off. So I traced a few here because I don't really know exactly what I want to do with it, but that we have options. So rather than paint on my piece, I just grab a piece of paper and I'm just going to play around and see what I want to do for using this stencil. There are so many ways to use stencils. Guys, you can dot them, you can paint them, you can just dab the paint over them so that it just fills the entire space. You can swipe, you can swirl. I mean, there are so many different ways you could possibly do this, but I just go off to the side sometimes and just kind of play around with it a little just to see what I might want to do with it. If I want to do all the same color, or if I want to add different colors. And then almost inevitably, even though I play off to the side, I always do something different when I actually get on the piece. So this is just showing with a paintbrush that you can do the swirls. This is just an Arteza. It's one of their mini liner brushes. But they're nice and soft and they work really well. You can dot with them too. I'm just grabbing it because it's faster with the etcher, faster than the etcher. But also at the top now it looks like a little leaf. Maybe I'll do it green. No, I don't want it green in this design, but maybe for future design. But you see how you can just play around with it and see where you can go. Alright, so now I'm just taking the etcher tool, and at the bottom of that stencil area I just did a couple little curly swipes on the side. This paint is giving me a hard time now because I've had it on my palette a bit. It's a little dry and tacky. But I'm just gonna put these, actually those look kind of big. No, maybe it'll be alright. So mandala is a really organic type of painting. You know, you can just kind of work your way through it, changing things, fixing things, switching it up. I ended up getting rid of those two fatter ones. I just wiped them off and put the black paint over it. So while it's drying, I'm going to work on dotting up the side here because that was what I think I wanted to do in my mind. But just going with the organic way of the flow makes it a little easier for me. Is just kind of picking, dipping, dotting, grabbing different colors, doing different shapes. Even with a stencil, you can do that. So this is just to show too the constant moving of the piece. I am always trying not to stick my hand in my wet paint because we're working around a piece. I'm working around the leaf. I have wet spots on it, but also just to kind of get the right angle for my hand that I find helpful. So we're going to do that on all three of these. And I'm starting off at the bottom of each just because that's where the bigger dots are, and then working my way up to the top of them. So again, I was talking about a few glitches. That's all I did was trace that part of the stencil up and around like a leaf. I'm not sure what is going on. Maybe I need to download the latest version of this software to upgrade it, but so now I'm going to switch to that berry cobbler. Rather than doing it all blue, I decided to add different colors in here. And I'm just taking the etcher and doing some more of our curls here. Another question I was asked recently is, how do you know when to stop dotting? Never. No, I'm just kidding. As far as stopping, I think there's been times even where I have set a piece aside for sometimes up to 6 months. I've left them just because I didn't know where else to go with it, I got stuck, or I just felt like it might need more. I just couldn't decide. So that's a thing that's changeable. So say you put top dots down and then decide, no, I want that big yellow dot to show big and yellow like it is without top dots. Then you can always go back and just dot over it with that color so it's back to that one solid block color. So there's never really, you've never ruined it per se. So I don't think dotting too much is really a problem. Sometimes it might feel a little bit chaotic and crowded, but that's the thing too, is painting on rocks, is you can always go back and find more rocks. That's the beauty of those. Or with something like this, you know, we have the base coat, so you can always black it back out with the base coat, unless we use the black. But you know, if you have a base coat of another color, you can just block it back out sometimes with your base coat if you feel like you've done too much. So don't stress, just let it flow and enjoy your painting. And also the things that we think are problems, no one else ever notices. Oh, it's off center. Nope, nobody's gonna notice. Oh, I got 10 dots on this side, 6 on that side. Nope, it's art, it's beautiful, it will be fine. You just have to relax and let go. Especially these days, we just really, I cannot say it enough, have to just relax and have something be enjoyable in our lives. Don't let this be a stressful, I'm gonna count every dot, it has to be extremely equal. I mean, this is coming from me who type A is definitely something that I would have called myself. And there are some things that I still do that with, but I think that there is something to be said for allowing yourself to just relax and enjoy the time that you're doing this. So now I'm using the Coral Blush, and I'm just adding a couple swipes alongside the dotted blue ones here. Sometimes, like I said, sometimes a space wants to be a space without any dots, and sometimes I feel like it wants to have something there. So I'm just gonna tuck these in here. And now I'm just contemplating if I want to do a large dot. I think I'm gonna put the coral in a large dot at the top here. And this is with the 1-inch acrylic rod, so the same size that I used for the yellow. I'm sorry, 3/4 inch. Pardon me. All right. So now also I'm thinking we'll have to start adding more of our yellows and our colors to bring them out to the edges of the leaves here. Or I'm sorry, the pieces, the petals of the leaf. I don't even know what you call these, the leaf divisions? I guess I never really thought about that. Branches of leaf? I don't know, the leaf sections. So I'm going to go back to that pale yellow, because you can see if you look at the mandala each time I kind of do the yellow, bring the blue, bring in some pink, then the orange, bring the yellow, bring the blue, some pink, some orange. So I didn't plan it, but in my mind it just ended up that way because I always try to keep the colors going throughout the same piece when I'm working on it. Okay, so I have to admit that I am not the biggest fan of going back and forth with the tool. So I might switch back to the brush. But we're gonna continue to dot around this area and bring our other colors out. This is the pale yellow. And we'll just follow that first blue line that we made that was with the stencils. So you have that as your anchor line to follow, and then work our way out. But I'm gonna switch back to the brush. Just, it's my own preference, and I think that I've given you guys a pretty good idea on all the other tools that are possibilities that I have here. And back to that lovely coral blush. So it's the same color as the large dot. I really like the way this is kind of looking like a little chandelier, and give it a little beaded effect. And again, with the brush, remember, just push down a little harder at the top to get the bigger dots, and let up as you go down and around, you'll get the smaller dots. But you can see this is a little better with not having to constantly go back to the palette to pick up more paint. Okay, grab that berry cobbler again with our 1/2 inch rod, and on either side of the corals we're going to put a big dot of that berry cobbler. It's kind of looking like a dancing person now on my screen. Alright, so now I'm grabbing the stylus, the 3mm, the largest one. And I'm going to show you how you can do a swipe even with the stylus. It's actually really easy. You just have to gauge how much paint to put on. This needs a double dip. And then drag it down and around. And as the paint runs off the tool, you'll get the thinner tail because you have less paint to wick down onto the canvas or whatever you're painting upon. But just so you see it, like I said, if you just have one set of tools, you can still do these designs. And it's just one little dot and then drag it out. Oh, that was another term for these. People had initially started calling them the dot drag. So that was another term you might hear people call these. So if you don't make it all the way to the bottom, you can also grab it with the little end and just go halfway to get a little bit of paint and then drag it out. And then I'm going to go back to the blue, and at the top on either one of these sides, I'm just going to tuck a little blue dot in here just to bring our blue up again. And then we're going to do like a mini little crown on the top of our orange here to finish off the edging. Alright, so now I'm going to grab my compass here, and it's not quite a circular shape, the leaf. So I'm kind of have to play around with it to get the edging out. I'm gonna make it so we have rings as if this were one big mandala. It's not going to be 100% in alignment with each section of the leaf, just so you know, because it was not cut from a perfect circle. So there's not really any place I can put my compass. So I'm just kind of gauging, eyeing it just about 1/4 of an inch above those yellow dots on either one of these. Leave a little space. And then we're going to start our outlining with the dots up here at the top. Okay, so I am using the paintbrush, and I am using a color called Vermilion. It's actually from Gen Crafts, and they have bottled premium acrylic colors as well. So theirs is Vermilion. It's like this deep orangey red. It's really pretty, as you can see. Very bright on my screen. So I'm just working my way around to just kind of make sure I follow this line and get it almost exact, just because that's going to be your baseline to gauge doing the next lines as you work your way out. So if the first one's good, usually you'll be in alignment with the rest. If the first one gets wonky, well, then it's going to be wonky probably throughout. There are some ways to kind of adjust it with the size of the dots and stuff like that, but if you want it to kind of be circular and look the same on the pattern, just have your line be straight the first one, and then you can base it off of there for your subsequent lines. So now, as I talked about it before, bringing colors throughout the piece, I'm just going to throw a couple vermilion dots in down below these blue swirls we did. Just because the more I look at it, I'm like, I need a little bit more of that pop down there. Alright, so I just backed it out so you could see a little better here. And the next color is the Berry Cobbler. Berry Cobbler, and then so I probably mix it up a little bit as we go, kind of bigger dots as we get farther out, and we'll make sure to pull each color into this. So I will grab the coral, I will grab the yellow again, I'll throw some of that scarlet in there, and that way we'll pull all the colors that we used in the beginning of the piece out here to the edging on the end. So I apologize, you guys, for my voice. I have found out that I have nodules on my lymph node and have had to have them biopsies, so the voice thing is in and out. So there's my confession of the day. I apologize, but I'm doing the best I got here. We'll make it work together. I'm sure you guys might not have even noticed. Alright, so back to the bright yellow here. And I've been trying to cut it out and then narrate over when I have to clear my throat and stuff, but it is what I have going on here, so bear with me as we go through this. So we'll do a double ring of yellow, so have a nice bright pop of color up there, and I think that'll be good. Gives kind of like a beading effect. If you've seen anybody ever weave with the beads, where you tie them off on a little string and make bracelets and stuff like that. That's what this always has reminded me of. Okay, now let's see. I'm gonna go with the coral shell here. And you can see I'm getting to the outskirts of those little tiny parts, but we'll just keep on in the same fashion, and wherever it ends up with the last color that I can squeeze in there is just what we'll leave it at. So it's as if we made a big mandala and then someone came along and then just punched a leaf out of it, cut a whole leaf out of it. So back to the slate blue here. And I am pushing down a little harder, see, with the brush, so that they get a little bit larger for these dots. A little bit bigger. And then you can see too, and just a little bit of swirl around as you do it. And that's how you make the bigger dots with the brush. berry cobbler again. Just alternating. You can see the ones that are dry are less vibrant. Once I gloss coat this with the varnish after, they'll both pop back out again, but while it's dried, you can see the actual color is not as overtly pink as it seems on the monitor. Okay, so we did 2 of the berry cobbler, and now I'm going to switch back to that scarlet again. I just have a baby wipe that I'm wiping my brush with too. I tend to not constantly be putting it back in the water. I just scrub it off quick with a baby wipe. It barely has any bristles to it. It just cleans off really quick. And we'll do some more coral. Now you can see on the sides, I hit my limit on the sides, so they're done. And we'll just kind of finish off with a couple rows of coral. And then let me scooch it down here a little. Just gonna fill in this last little top here with the blue. Try to just pretend like that hanging the water pump again wouldn't be my video without it, see? So I'm just gonna avoid that hole at the top there just so I can keep it in case I want to hang it that way. And there we have our finished leaf. It looks amazing. You guys did awesome. I really hope you guys enjoyed doing this with me and seeing all the tools that you can use. These are all the paints, all the tools, just basically constantly grabbing stuff off my desk here to use. But you see, it can be done with any of the tools you have around your home. Make your own tools. Just enjoy your time doing this. I have to say I enjoyed it. I love being back with you guys here. I'm so glad I could finish this up to get it out to you. And just a reminder, I am on Instagram and Facebook. I do have my website, which will direct you all over those places. And it is www.mirandapitroneart.com. All right, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you enjoyed doing this. You could even do it on a smaller scale. You could even do it on stone. I think it's transferable, but I was looking for a fun fall project and I think I found it in this. So I hope you guys had fun, and I hope to hear from you all in the comments what you thought about it, and I will see you all again real soon. Thank you so much for watching.